Good morning, clear cutters. I like that. Episode 34. Today we have with us.
My name is Zack Harris.
His name is Zack Harris. He is on the media team at Connection Point Church.
So the media staff.
He's on the media staff team, the team staff.
Splitting hairs. I'm technically
he
on
gets
both.
paid to be here, but he is gladly here on his day off. So thanks for coming in.
Yes, thank
Welcome.
you. Thank you.
Honored to be asked to do whatever we're going to talk about because I have no idea.
That's
Or
always
you
the fun
didn't
part.
tell
I
him
didn't tell him
anything?
anything.
Okay.
I should
That's
think of
okay.
something super theological right now and then
No.
just blast it on him.
No, we
But I
don't need an
can't.
episode like last week.
No,
Our
we
viewers
don't.
are going to be like,
Darn,
what in the
too
world's
deep.
going to
Yeah,
happen?
we had Jared last week. We talked about the Trinity. It went deep. It was really good.
Oh,
but
I'm sure it was,
deep.
but I'm sure it was. You had to really
Listen.
put the headphones on and
Yeah.
listen to that
It
one.
was like you
Yeah.
need to sit down and watch the video podcast, not
Yeah.
just the audio.
Yeah, you know you haven't uploaded in like 2 weeks to Spotify?
I did.
Oh, okay.
It was just like, it's like a week behind right now.
Oh, okay.
So we can take a week off sometime and be okay.
Hey, Christmas
Cool.
is coming up. Use it
Yeah.
for that.
So I just want to start. What'd you do before Connection Point? And how did you end up at Connection Point Church?
Okay, that's a good question. Thank you for asking.
You're welcome.
No, I worked at a photography studio, a local one called Cheekwood. I worked there for 9 years, but there was a period after about 4 or 5. I got saved in 2012. So I remember there was a period where I got saved through it was like an apologetics class. So it was a very bizarre way to get saved. Like it wasn't through like
Wow.
church or anything. So my foundation was weird because I was like theological stuff, but I had like no basic Christian foundation. So like I didn't understand like anything like prayer. But anyway, so that's another topic altogether. But there was a period after about 3 years of being saved that I didn't go to church or anything again because my basis was deep stuff, not any like the stuff that Christians should start on. And so I remember when I first actually started praying, like where to go, one of my buddies invited me to his church, and I went there for a while, and I almost joined him. It was a biker church. It was kind of funny to be.
That is so funny.
Because that doesn't seem like anything like I would do. But I got baptized there, and it was cool because they revved their motorcycles.
That's
We
pretty
did
sweet.
it
Oh my
out in the street.
gosh.
It was pretty cool.
We should definitely try that sometime. Men's event.
Yeah, dude, that's a good one. But anyway, so as you can assume, a biker church, it doesn't seem like the place where I would probably fit in. They were all good people, but it was like I always felt like I should be doing something.
Like riding a motorcycle.
Yeah, and it's like I can't even ride a tricycle without falling over. So like a motorcycle, that's like it's not if there's going to be an accident, it's when there's going to be an accident.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
But anyway, so I was praying about it, and I remember just one random day I was at Cheekwood, and I was working in the lab. Even as a photography studio, I worked like in the lab doing coloring and stuff, and processing. And I remember I got a text from Darren, your father-in-law, and he was like, "Hey, I'm starting a media team at Connection Point Church. I want you to join me." So I was like, I remember leaning over to my coworker, and I was like, "Well, looks like I'm going to CPC." So I started there as a volunteer for several years, and then eventually, because I was there like night and day, even though I didn't work there, they eventually started paying me. And then eventually I got a full-time job and started here full-time in 2020. So right before COVID hit, and that's a great story as well.
Now,
Life changing.
Yeah.
did you know Darren prior to that text?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, I met him at that apologetics class that I got saved in. He wasn't there at the time, but like I met him later and ran into him a couple times over the years, and I helped him with some projects for CPC before he asked me to join the media team.
Yeah. And you had the experience from Cheekwood, but
Right.
you did take the class at CTC, correct?
Yes. I took the video production class at CTC, which was Randy McWilson taught, which he spearheaded that apologetics group. So
Okay.
he's done a lot for me in terms of training and literally inviting me to a place where I got saved. So
Yeah. I know Randy as Rad Randy from what's now called Solid Rock Bible Camp. So
Oh,
knowing
okay. That's
hearing what he did when I grew up like teaching that class at CTC, I was like, there's no way. I thought the dude was just like a full-time pastor, like growing up.
I mean, he's a character. So that's all I can say. If you know him, you know him, and it's like that's a very succinct way of just putting it, and just it's a complete. That explains it all.
Yeah. So just go into the story of you getting saved a little bit, because that's already interesting.
Okay. Mine. I was come from a different approach because I know I think at church, like as media, like a lot of times we view these videos of people's testimonies, and it's always like they were a drug addict or like somebody died in their family, and there's like this extreme event.
I've been shot at 12 times.
And it's like you always look at those and you're like, wow, those are crazy that like that person found Jesus through that. And then then you'll look at your own. Sometimes you're like, well, mine's not that extreme, but mine's extreme in a different way because it was weird because I was basically raised very well. My parents, they didn't make a lot of money, but they literally like took care of us. Like we never went without. So I always had a really, really easy, smooth life. But for some reason, I was always very hateful about everything. Like there was just there's like a chip on my shoulder, and I really, even now, like I don't know why, but I was very hateful. It was just like that was Zack. He was the little cute little boy that they all like, little Zacky. But I was like always this weird like anger and hate in the back of my mind and heart. I guess, it'd be hard at this point. So So it was just kind of strange that was like my whole life, like, and I didn't really have a reason to be angry, but I was, and resentful. It was very strange. It was almost like I was resenting God even though I didn't know him. So I was never an atheist or anything like that. I was basically, I guess, put as agnostic. Because like I believed him. I always believed him that I always just thought he was just kind of distant, like he created everything and was like, all right, I'm out, kind of thing. Because it didn't make sense. Nothing else made sense as far as like just like random happenstance and everything creating the whole universe. There's a design to it and everything. But anyway, so I had, after I got out of high school, I met basically two of my closest friends outside of high school, and one of my best friends ever in high school, or actually middle school. And we all kind of and I met two of the guys at the Career Center, Randy Mack's class, and Louis had been my high school buddy, friend, middle school buddy, whatever. I've known him forever. It's like 25 years now. Yeah. So he started taking the class, the video production class Randy taught. This guy named Phil and Andrew started taking it as well, or it doesn't matter like why they were there, because some were second year, some were first year. It was a 2-year course. Anyway, so we all took it, and by doing a bunch of projects together, we got really close, and we were like, went to Skills USA together, and we won awards and stuff. And we just got really close because we're all kind of nerdy and everything, and had just like similar lives and things, and we bonded pretty quickly because they all also had like a really kind of weird sense of humor. That it's like that's my thing, is having a weird sense of humor, and I loved it, make people laugh, and they were all kind of part of that. So it was always like trying to one up each other. So that was awesome. But so Phil was already saved, even saved when he was younger, and Andrew, he got saved as an adult, pretty close to when he started taking that class, actually. I'm pretty sure it was within like a year or so of him taking that. And then Louis got saved right around that same time, like within a year or so of taking the class. And so basically my whole friend group, for the first time ever in my life, was all like born-again Christians. Yeah. And so it got to the point where I didn't really believe. Wouldn't go to church with them or anything. They all started going to church together. And I respected him, and I respected Randy Mack because he would actually talk about God and Jesus and apologetics like after class was over. So I would always listen, and I respected them, so I listened, but I didn't care. Like I said, it was just that weird like resentment for whatever reason in me. And so there was a period that was like, so it was early 2012, and they started this apologetics class. They called it a Bible study. And for whatever reason at that point, I was just like willing to go, and they invited me, and there was only like 3 people there, and eventually started growing. And I remember they just said things that really struck a chord to me. It was like really basic stuff that now I'm like, that's almost like child's play, like literally like the design thing. They're like, there's design in the universe. In no other, like if you found a cake just somewhere, you would never think, well, that, like the sugar, right, the flour, all that just came together with some wind and time and made a cake. You're like, no, somebody had to make the cake. So just basic stuff like that made me like, wow. So yeah, you can't deny God, like in creation. And then eventually just that other stuff started creeping in because thankfully they got spiritual with it, talking biblical stuff, and then talking about how like the Bible is reliable, and it just started slowly like clicking with me, and I started actually wanting to go to this little class thing they did. And I remember like so like my head was getting satisfied, but still in the heart, like I still just didn't have what I needed, which was Jesus, of course. So there was still that weird resentment still. And I remember one night, I know none of you have heard of the movie because most people probably haven't because it's super obscure, but this movie it's either late 80s or early 90s called In the Name of the Father, which is ironic. But it's about this dude who goes to prison, and he's technically innocent because he was he gets arrested for murder for blowing up a building because the whole Ireland, the IRA kind of like Civil War thing they had or still have. And when he gets arrested for murder, but he's innocent because he was actually robbing somebody at the time of the murder. So he goes to prison, and they basically beat a confession out of him. And apparently it's somewhat of a true story. But anyway, so at the end of the movie, he gets released finally after like a decade or something.
He just ruined the movie for us.
Yeah, it's Daniel Day-Lewis. It's really good. Pete Postlethwaite's in it. Postlethwaite is in it too. Well, I liked it at the time. It was literally 11, 12 years ago.
Sounds interesting.
But at the end of the movie, it was just because he's free after. So he was guilty of crime, but he was not guilty. I don't know. It's either way. The concept of freedom was just really like weighing on me. And I remember taking a shower at like 2 a.m. because I used to have this really weird thing where I had to take a shower before I went to bed. You're going to find out, people, that I'm like super weird, which if you haven't determined that already. But I used to take a shower. I'd have to shower before I went to bed. And so I was in the shower, and I remember I was literally thinking about freedom. And then it just kind of hit me right there, the freedom from sin and all that. And it was like, it's only through Jesus. And it just all hit me. I'm in the shower. It was like 2 a.m. I just started bawling in the shower. And like, I didn't even know. It was like I really didn't even realize the magnitude of it. And it took me like 3 or 4 more weeks to realize that I'd been saved. Because again, I didn't have any of that basic Christian foundation of like knowing what happens when you get saved and stuff. I just had that head knowledge and finally the heart. So that's kind of how it happened. And eventually, it took about another year before I kind of started doing actual Christian things and stuff. But.
Wow. That's good.
You got anything?
I don't got any.
Come on, bro.
Okay.
I hit the mic.
Okay. I got to think here. Okay, so Zach, tell me. You can tell me you're not comfortable talking about it if you're not, but I can't remember what letter it is that Paul writes, but he talks and he tells the people the church in which he's writing the letter to. He wishes that everyone could stay single as he is. Everyone could not marry as he is. But if you find yourself falling into temptation or falling into sin, then get married. You live a life of singleness, and you have for a very long time. Mm-hmm. How has that at all negatively affected your faith, and how has it positively affected your faith?
I think negatively affected my faith in the sense that I always wondered why. Because as of this recording, I'm 36. So I got saved. So it was 12. So I was like 24. So like 12 years to almost 13 to think about it. I was just like, what? How come? No matter what, like I could talk to a woman. We'd even get close. I could be friends with them. But as soon as I had that romantic inclination, it'd be like done. Like she'd like hate me. It was like so weird. It was like literally like God was just like, no, sorry, no, I'm not gonna let you do this. And it took me until last September to finally like realize why God was doing that to me. And so I really struggled with that because it's almost like, everybody wants to be wanted, everybody wants to be loved. So it's like, even though I was surrounded by it, and I still am, like, by all these people I love at the church and everything, it's like there's that one thing, because I'm like secretly a romantic, so like I've wanted a relationship my entire life, and so it was always hurt. But I remember there was this is one of my favorite God stories ever. So and it leads into the positive aspect of it, of the singleness. It was at for those of you who aren't aware, CPC, our church here, we run all the concession stands at Jackson, our high school in the town. Their football games, all their home games, we do their concessions. And we've been doing it for years, so I'm always helping in some capacity. So last September, that's during that season, I was bringing supplies between the two concession stands because they're across from each other. And I saw this couple, and I knew who they were. Like, I didn't know them personally. I knew who they were.
Yeah.
And I remember looking at them, in the guy specifically, and thinking, even this loser's got a girl. I'm like, what is wrong with me? And it was very resentful. And I remember, and that's literally what I thought in my head. And I go about my business. And so hours pass. It's like I'm at home at that point. I'm like playing on my phone or something. And this was probably one of the first or second time that God literally like spoke to me. It's like one of those weird things, like you just see the words in your head kind of thing. It's hard to explain, but he literally said, I don't have standards for them. I have standards for you. And that like tore me up, because I'm like, that literally explained everything. Like literally, like he wasn't letting me get married to the wrong person.
Right.
Because there have been women I chased after over the years, and now I'm like, that either would have ended badly, I would have done this wrong thing, it would have been a divorce or something, because none of them were right. And so it was just, so that led to a nice positive thing. It's like, oh, like he doesn't, like he's making me wait for the right person.
Yes.
So that's cool. And there's some whole craziness with that. That's probably too long for your podcast. But other positives, of course, is I've been able to focus on ministry and stuff for this time, because I've been able to work and do all these projects and things that I probably couldn't have. But
yeah, and we don't necessarily do a lot of outreach, but every outreach event we do, you are also there. I know being single helps with that, because
right.
Like for Grayson and I, like not only do we have to be with our wives and everything, but then our wives' families want to do stuff and our families want to do stuff as well. And so then it's like three different people, three different groups of people that you have to spend time with.
Right.
For you, you just have like your own family, and now like you say you're 36, right?
Yes.
You're not necessarily going over to your mom's house all the time.
Right.
I know, like for us, like we just moved out, both of us, so we're still seeing our moms, or and then I'm seeing my dad every so often. I know as you get older, that becomes less and less, and so you're in a really good position to be able to do all that stuff. And I wish in a sense that I could have been able to do all that. Like I could have waited to get married to spend more time focusing on my faith and focusing on serving others
And yourself.
And yes, and yourself.
Like I wish I had all of the things I do now when I was single and was saved and was living that life for a little while, before marriage.
But I know that I needed my wife to get through my parents' divorce. I needed my wife to get through, or at least my girlfriend, she was my girlfriend at the time, to get through the shutdowns through COVID, through my sister having problems and thoughts of suicide. I needed her, and that second half of the scripture that I was talking about earlier, where if you find yourself falling into temptation, get married. I needed that, because I struggled heavily prior to getting married with lust and sexual immorality. And Paul wasn't specifically speaking to me, but I was able to take that and realize that like that was for me. Got anything, Grayson?
Well, I was going to add to that is I don't know how to word this, how to set it up, but either way, my point, the way God does it, obviously we all agree that he has a plan, and it just sometimes some of us, there's something you really want, he's going to make you work for it, I think, especially if it's his will. So it's one of those things is like, yes, I'm very glad that there's, like I said, I never ended up with the wrong person, that I've had this extra time for ministry and things, but it's like at the same time, he knows the desire of my heart, and it's been kind of established already, especially even just this weekend had a really like, I don't know how to explain this crazy conversation with somebody that it's like, he's setting me up for something, and I believe it's what I want, because I don't think all these things would fall into place without it. But he was like, you're gonna be much older. When you were like 12 and dreaming of thinking of your dream woman, and it's like, no, you're gonna be like almost 40 by the time you get to be with her. And so my point is, like, it's a whole seasons thing. You know what I mean? Like, you got to call. Everybody's got a calling, and whether you like how the setup is, he's gonna. It'll work out in his will, and if it works out for you, it'll be in your will too. It's always great when it's like the two go together, because it doesn't always.
It's always hard to see, right? Like,
yeah, exactly.
It's hard to, one, because you're probably not supposed to see, but it's also, we think we can do it better all the time, even though we've seen God and seen his timing be absolutely perfect, right? Like, I've seen it in my own life, but also in my own life, it's like, I've wanted a job in ministry for a while now, and it's like, why can't I just like get that, right? Like, we're struggling, like, why can't I just have that now? Like, we've been patient, and then, I don't know how much I can say, so I'm not going to go into it, but it's like, what's the difference between 2 months ago and, let's just say, maybe in a couple months I find that job in ministry. The difference is that I can see is I'll have a savings left, or I'll have nothing left.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's, you've given me your finances in this whole time. But when you see $10 left, what are you gonna do?
Right.
And that's just been my thought the last couple of days. Sadly, it definitely causes stress. And I said this on the young adults podcast that we were in. But we had my wife Hannah, her twin sister got married this weekend. So tensions are already high, stress, I'm sure. I didn't do much, but the women involved are definitely stressed, getting everything organized, making it as perfectly as possible as they can. Then on top of that, after the wedding and everything, I think this was yesterday, Hannah and I just she was bringing up Christmas gifts and stuff, and I think I'm just probably sitting there just shaking my head. She was in the back seat with the baby, and I was just driving, and she either looked at my eyes in the rearview mirror, because I'm sure I was just like this, or I was just shaking my head, and she just saw it. Just kind of like, what? And I was just like, told her how much money we have, and I'm just like, you want to eat, or you want to buy them Christmas gifts? Like, are they going to double up what we give them? Because that's the only way I can buy them presents. And we all say, it's not about the gifts. It's not about that. But I'm definitely somebody that absolutely loves giving, right? Like, when I worked in solar and made more than enough money to provide for myself and my wife, like, going to get ice cream and buying the person's behind me was like the highlight of my day. Like, I absolutely loved it. But I've told him before, it's easy to do that when you have money.
Right.
Are you still going to do that when you don't, is the question. Like, are you still going to like bless somebody's day like that whenever you don't have it as good? That was a totally random tangent. I don't know where we are.
No, that's good. That ties in, because it's I kind of fuddled through it earlier, but it was like, he's going to put you through some stuff.
Yeah.
Because whether you think you're ready or not, you aren't in certain times. And I think if you have a higher calling, because I believe some people have to do this, some people have to do this. And it's like, when you're higher up here, he's going to put you through stuff, because last year I got put in a situation where I was like, I'm ready for this, Lord. And I was like, oh yeah, like it's happening now. It's happening. And I miserably failed because I wasn't ready. And so, it killed me. Like, it destroyed me. And it was like, and he even told me, it's like, because you weren't ready. So it's like, I had to go through like over a year now of just relying on him, being like, okay, I get it. Like, I didn't put you in here. And
I think I said this in our last podcast, but it fits well here too. Kind of like my meeting Hannah, or my marriage with Hannah, it took me to fully giving it all up for God to bless me with her. In that situation, it was literally the next day. I completely gave it up, told him I'm done. Then I saw her sitting on the choir stands or risers that we had at church, and then I got mad at God. Like, are you serious, bro? Like, I couldn't believe he threw that in my face. I was like, I just told you I'm done. Like, now you're gonna throw this chick in front of me.
That's good.
But I always relay back to that, thinking, like, well, have I given it up fully? I don't expect it to come next day. I feel like he was really quick on that, but maybe it's because that's how genuine I was in that moment. Like, maybe I truly gave it up and meant it 100% with my whole heart, and he was like, okay, you're ready. Like, here you go. Maybe finances, I think I've given it all up, right? But when there is 5 cents left, what's my mood?
Yeah.
Like, how's it gonna be?
Absolutely.
So maybe that's kind of why. That's how I look at that.
I mean, you could still give it up and like still have doubts. That's just part of life.
Yeah. It is funny though how we doubt. Like, I mean, through this whole year, I've seen blessings of God, just like random things all the time. And then the first thought in my brain is, well, it's not gonna happen again.
Right. Yeah.
Zack and I went through our introduction into ministry very similarly when we were just serving, and then we. For me, it was one of those things. I don't know if it was the same thing for you, but before I got hired on part time, they would just let me like gift cards with money on them, and I was like, okay, okay. And then
occasionally happened.
And then I got hired on part time and then full time. And we were still working our secular jobs as well during that time. But then, I mean, Grayson took another step of faith and beyond
that.
I
paid to.
Yeah, and then he paid to serve and to learn, and
that sounds bad. It's been great, but that was just funny.
Yeah, and of course you didn't have a job throughout that time. So, what a big step of faith to take. I honestly don't think I could have done it. I know you had savings from your previous job. That's something that I never really had in life because I wasn't raised to be the most financially wise person. But you did, and you were able to take that step. And I wonder, or have you ever thought about what your life would be like now if you hadn't done that? If you still would have worked a secular job while also still trying to focus on ministry while having a wife and a baby?
I'd still have 40 to 50,000 in my bank account. But no, I mean, in all seriousness, no, that's the hardest thing, because growing up, I mean, all I ever heard was just don't spend all your money. Got to save it. Save half, right? Like, you live at home. What do you spend money on, right? Like, you got gas. You want to go to the movie this week and you want to eat out like 4 times. That's fine. But the rest of it, like, what are you doing with it? Mm-hmm. So savings was huge. And to see that number just grow and grow and grow, I mean, I was addicted to it, man. Like, it was so great. Just seeing that grow, right? Like, in that moment, in that season, I was saved. And I think the only thing I haven't handed to the Lord truly was my finances. Mm-hmm. I think I thought I did because I had enough money to bless others and be comfortable in that. So I made myself feel like I gave it to God by blessing other people with the money I had. Yeah. Not truly just giving him control over everything. But yeah, it growing was an addiction, 100%. I don't think I've ever said that or really looked at it that way, but I know it is. But to see it get to that, and then truly understand that this is where I was supposed to be, internship-wise, and to see it go down, that hurts. On a weekly basis, I'm transferring money from my savings account to my checking. I don't know why I haven't just transferred everything out of my savings to my checking.
You were just hoping for that interest to build.
Yeah.
Those 2 pennies.
That might be the last string of me just hanging on just a little bit on my own. Yeah. Like I can't see it hit 0. Yeah. But I think knowing that the Lord blessed me with that job right before.
Wow.
Sorry, Siri. I think knowing that the Lord blessed me with that career for a reason, which was to
provide for this.
Yeah, was to just save as much as possible, which I spent a lot, but I made a lot.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and I'm glad we did spend a lot because that was a good year of me and Hannah living in St. Louis, going to Cardinal games every week, sitting nearly courtside at a Memphis Grizzlies game, going to Mexico, you know, eating out every night for dinner, doing what we wanted to do financially. And I think that was looking back, it'll be one of the best years of our lives together. Because yes, I was busy and working a lot, but the time that we did have together was extravagant.
Yeah.
Right. Like, do what you want, eat what you want. We'll go out of the country, whatever you want to do.
Right.
But if you asked her that, it'd probably be a time of I wasn't there enough.
Yep. Yeah, because your wife doesn't do it. Like your wife was a stay-at-home wife at that point.
But then seeing how the Lord was preparing us financially for the coming of a baby, the internship and all that. And seriously, like I kid you not, having maybe $1,500 more than what I needed to do this whole internship for a year with the summer being off. So that cost includes absolutely everything but like eating out. So I had like $2,000 extra basically.
Mm-hmm.
So looking at like my account now, it's like I have a little over like $1,500, and that's rent one more time, and that is a car payment one more time.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, hopefully pizza in today for lunch or something because I'm pretty hungry. But no, it's been eye opening to see like what are the odds that's like I have just about the right amount of money to like do this for a whole year. That's pretty unbelievable.
That
you know, like
crazy.
I spent just enough money and saved just enough money to be able to do this for a whole year. Like that is not a
I was
coincidence.
about to point that out. Are you seeing the irony here? That the guy that's stressing over money is like you're the one that's literally you had the nice paying job and you had all that money saved up, and now at this point, as you're slowly losing it, you still have just enough, and you'll probably have just enough until that time where you have the new job or a new job.
Yeah.
And then at the same time, you're the one that also paid into being here, whereas we didn't.
Yeah.
It's like you've seen the irony here, like all this money stuff. And it's
Bro,
like,
Red Lobster gift card or something would be great.
You know what I'm saying though? Like you realize, like literally how you can totally see God's hand in that. Like the thing you struggle with, the thing He's literally making you sweat.
Yeah, it's annoying.
And I know, like the season that you're in, I absolutely hated.
Oh, I can't, man.
Because I knew that, like I didn't know, but I had been told that the church wanted to hire me, but I had to wait. And in that
Pretty much
waiting
same.
period where I was, you know, maybe serving 30 to 40 hours a week, while also I remember the month before I got hired on. This was a month before I got hired on full time. I was part time here. I was getting paid for a certain amount of hours, working much more than that. But then I was working 50 hours at my secular job that week, or then every week that month. And I was like, I can't do it. I was very close to just deciding to give up church, because in that moment, I was getting taken advantage of. I felt by two entities, the church and also by my secular job.
Right.
I know that it was the holiday season, so like it was Christmas time. There was all this stuff going on at church, and we're supposed to be busy. But I remember driving home one day from that secular job, and I was trying to decide what I was going to do because I wasn't going to make enough going full time at the church to provide for my family because my wife was going to school full time at that time. And I remember driving home one day and God telling me, "I'll provide. Just focus on me." And I had a peace, a truly supernatural peace in that moment. I called my wife and I told her that I think God is really telling me to just do ministry and He'll provide the rest. And the reason I knew it was right is because she didn't question. She said, "Okay, if that's what you feel like God is telling you, then that's what you need to do." But I'm curious, Zach, how was that season for you, where you were maybe it was when you were part-time at church and you were still working your secular job, or when you had been told you were going to get hired on a church, yet you were in that season of waiting.
Well, thankfully, I love Pastor Kevin. He basically, they never really promised me a job, well, like a timeline, I should say.
Yep.
They always like, like, hey, we want you on the team and stuff. So thankfully, I never had this like date that I was harping on.
Yeah.
But it was a pretty rough patch for a while, because it was like, as much as I loved it, Cheekwood, and I loved like everybody there was awesome to me. Like they treated me like so well. But just that, it was just that grind of doing, because Cheekwood, we would work Saturdays too.
Yeah.
So it was like, get up, go to work at 8 at Cheekwood, get off at 4, then I'd come straight to CPC, work till like 9 or 10, and just do the same thing the next day and the next day and the next day and the next. And it was like, because at the time I wasn't really used to that, because I didn't, that workload, which, like I said, it was all stuff I liked doing, but it was just after a while, after like several months of like literally, like I think I went a period of like 18 months without a day off, like, and it was a little rough, I will say that. I didn't enjoy a lot of that part, just the whole, because it was also made you, because like I wanted to do the church stuff, especially because I love graphic design and getting to do that, but then like at the same time being like, I'm so tired, I don't want to be here.
Yeah, you begin to resent the church.
That's what bothered me the most, was that I didn't want to be there several times. But there came to a point where I just knew that was my calling. Like at that point, like, because God didn't really start speaking to me until like just like a year or two ago. But I just, even what I do now as a single person is like I rely on the promise. I know He's got something for me. And I got to stick with it, because the single thing, spoiler alert, I won't be single forever. He's promised me something, and so that's why I don't let it kill me anymore. Yeah. I know I have something. It's gonna happen when it happens.
Yeah, and that season of working 8 to 4, and then working like say 4:30 to 9, that couldn't have happened if you were not single.
Right. No, it's definitely true, and I did, like he did. I saved a ton of money and those things like that. Because working at a church, you don't exactly. You're not making Cadillac money, that's for sure. So that was anyway. So I have never been without even now. So.
You're making Toyota Yari money, right?
Yeah, Toyota Yari money. It's been paid off for 10 years, so that shows you how old it is. But.
Oh man,
how many miles on that thing?
I put about 10,000 a year, like so about 150, 160.
That's crazy. There's more miles on my car.
I bought my car when I had money. Had like 1 mile on it.
Stupid.
I had like 1 mile on it.
Mine was new too, by the way.
It didn't cost as much as his.
Nope. I think 16 grand is probably close to what yours was.
There's a 6 in mine. I think this is a lot of miles, but I bought it not this last October, but the October before that. So it's been a year and like 2 months.
Mm-hmm.
How many miles should you have on a car? Let's say I had 0.
10 to 15 a year.
Okay. Well, I'm at 30,000 miles. And it's been a year.
About average,
a year and 2 months.
A year and 2 months.
Oh, a year. Oh, yeah, that's a lot.
That's a lot.
Well, my car's small, so I always got out of road trips and stuff. So
yeah.
There's a reason why mine doesn't have as much, and my commute's never been very long.
And I just bought my car used, so I have that excuse.
Well, guys, we appreciate Zach for being here today.
Yes, thank you, Zach.
So he can go home, put his pajamas back on, enjoy his day off.
What I'm going to do, too.
That's what I want to do. We will see you all next week. Appreciate you for watching. Peace.
See ya.